This is Janet Axton for St Ives TV. Today we're in the War Memorial Gardens in the centre of the town, right next door to the beautiful St Ives Parish Church. I'm here with my colleague Ted Lever from the archive, and we want to tell you about some letters that were given to the archive a little while ago from the family of John Glasson Thomas. He wrote these letters during the First World War while he was in the army. Ted, when you first saw these letters, what did you find out about John Glasson Thomas?
Well, Janet, we know that he was born in St Ives. He trained as a teacher and he went to work in East London. Well, we know that he was a staunch Methodist, and he joined a group of young people of similar interests, and they had a very bright social life in London in the days leading up to the beginning of the First World War.
And what happened at the beginning of the war? What did he decide to do?
Well, in 1915 he joined up in the Royal Garrison Artillery. And there was a group in St Ives of territorial soldiers, and they were the men that manned the really big heavy guns. And he was sent to Pendennis Castle in Falmouth, and there he took part in training until he himself was capable of training other people.
And who was he writing the letters to?
Well, in particular, I think he wrote to quite a number of different people in London, but in particular he wrote to one particular lady, and they formed a strong friendship, and their correspondence lasted until well into 1917 when he went to France. She was called Gertrude Brooks.
I understand that he really wanted to go to France, but he didn't actually. It was quite a long time before he went. Why was that?
Yes, he, like a lot of people, he wanted to go to France as quickly as he possibly could. But group after group was trained, left, went to France, and he was left behind, and he couldn't understand the reason why. In the end, he approached an officer and he said, "Why am I being left behind when everybody else is going to France?" He said, "Well, as a trained teacher and a man of 27 years of age, a little bit older than most of the recruits, you're the ideal person to train those that we are sending."
What sort of relationship do you think John Glasson Thomas had with Gertie Brooks?
It was a very formal, as it probably would be at that particular time in her history, and all of the letters started "Dear Miss Brooks" and were signed "Yours sincerely, J.G. Thomas." But they were firm friends, there's no doubt about that, and they shared many, many interests together.
Did he actually ever get to see her while he was stationed in Falmouth?
Yes, from time to time he had leave. Of course, being a St Ives man, he often had to come back home to see his family. And in particular, his father was very, very seriously ill and later died. So he had to try to divide his time between visits to home and visits to his friends back in London.
And do you think the relationship developed over this period of time?
Well, it seemed to. They wrote to each other about once a fortnight, I believe, from the letters that we have. And they exchanged information about their friends and so on and so on. And he was never happier, I think, than when he was back in East London together with the group that he'd become so friendly with.
And these letters that he wrote, does it tell us much about it, what it was like being in the army?
Oh yes, there's a lot of very, very interesting detail about the time that he sent there. In Pendennis they had to keep a continuous watch because there was always the fear that German ships might come in and shell the harbour, which was a very, very important place.
And did the relationship develop over the period of time?
Well, we know that he went up to London just before he went across to France, and we can sense that there was some kind of significant change, I think, because the next letter begins "Dear Gertie" instead of "Dear Miss Brooks," and is signed "Yours, Tommy."
Well, that was quite different, wasn't it?
Indeed.
And then where did he go in France? Do we know?
Yes, he crossed to Le Havre and moved up to the front line. It was a very, very difficult time. It was towards the end of the great Battle of the Somme, and winter was approaching.
And does this story have a happy ending?
Sadly, no. He was eventually promoted to regimental sergeant major, and he was posted to another heavy artillery battalion nearby. The war was fought very much between the batteries of the Germans and of the British, and each tried to locate where the other battery was stationed. They moved continuously to avoid being shelled, but on one sad occasion he was hit by fragments of shell and taken to the nearby Canadian hospital. in a few hours, I'm afraid, he died.
Did she eventually marry?
No, she never married, Janet. Gertie continued to be friendly with his sisters. She came to St Ives many, many times, all the way through the 1920s and the 1930s. But she never married. In fact, she once wrote, "I could never find anyone to replace the one that I lost." And she was that one of the generation of ladies who never found husbands.
It's really tragic, isn't it? But how lucky we are to actually have those letters and get an insight as to what it was actually like to be in the army at that time. And of course we remember John Glasson Thomas forever because his name is on the War Memorial, not far from us here, and along with all the others who died during the First World War.
Indeed.
Thank you for watching St Ives TV. We'll be with you next month with another story.